Haven't done this in a while, so I'm excited to do it. I'm going to go through the comment section, read some of you guys' hot takes, and react to it. So let's just jump into it, man. World War Z with this one. And he says, Darnold is going to get a Baker-type contract from the Vikings. Add inflation, cap growth to it to maybe 3 years. $120 million, $60 million guaranteed. Whew, that's a lot of money for Sam Darnold. That is a lot of it. It's 40 a year for Sam Darnold. 1.5 year guaranteed. Probably just 1 year guaranteed if you include the signing bonus. So it'd probably be $60 million cap hit for that first year. And then you could probably cut it clean after that first year. But you're going to take on 60 in the first year of that contract, more than likely, if the Vikings sign him to that. No idea whether Darnold's going to be the long-term solution. I have my doubts. So this brings me to a larger point. And this is going to be the topic of the video, so it's not even going to be your hot take that. And this is going to be, I think, what I named the video, so I'm going to put this one first. I think it's time for me to go public on something that I've been ruminating about for a while. I think I need to short the quarterback market. Now, if you've watched The Big Short, you know what I mean by this. But basically, The Big Short's a movie about the 2008 housing crisis and how people just assume that because it's the housing market, that certain things would happen that always happen with the housing market. And then one person was like, no, none of these like stocks, none of these bank loans, they're backed by nothing. We're basically in a market that is being inflated to sell what is nothing, right? Like if you ever think about a bubble, I know we're getting into financial topics right now. You might not expected that on a football channel about the Browns, but like if you look like the .com bubble, right, what people are worried about with the AI bubble with the stock market right now, basically when there's a lot of value financially ascribed to things that don't make a profit, that usually creates a bubble because it's all speculation. And I'm shorting the quarterback market this year because the speculative bubble on the value of some of these quarterbacks this offseason is way higher than anybody can justify it based on these quarterbacks' experiences, right? Darnold is a great example of that. He's going to get a Baker Mayfield type contract. You can say what you want about Baker Mayfield, but Baker Mayfield made the playoffs before he did it with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield was a former number 1 overall pick, and Baker Mayfield's body of work up until he got that contract from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was significantly better than Sam Darnold's. We talked about this a lot when Baker was here in Cleveland, right? Like Baker outperformed Sam Darnold his whole career. The idea that Darnold is in line to get a contract like Baker, when like the argument for Baker was like, yeah, he had a couple down years, but we've seen what he's capable of before. And look, he had a good year with this team. So if you bring him back, you're going to have more good years with him. Sam Darnold is having his first good year in his career. And you're telling me right now that's worth $40 million because he's a quarterback? That's the speculative bubble on that is just crazy to me. Let's talk about some of the quarterbacks in the draft, right? Because like Shedeur Sanders, some people think that that's a top 5 pick. Here's my issue with Shedeur. Here's my issue with Cam Ward going in the top 5 of this year's draft. Like people are telling me these two are locks to go number 1 and 2 overall. And it's not because people think that these are great prospects. I think people like Shedeur as a prospect. But, like, I can't find somebody who consistently puts Shedeur in the top 5 of their prospects list. I can't find somebody who consistently puts Cam Ward, that I respect, who consistently puts those two quarterbacks in the top 5 of their prospects, but they're telling me that these guys are going to go 1 and 2 overall. That's not usually how that works. When a quarterback tandem goes 1 and 2 overall, it's usually because there's 2 of the coldest prospects in that class, right? Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston, Jared Goff, Carson Wentz. Like not Deion Sanders. Shedeur Sanders is a decent prospect. He's the best prospect in this class. He's not Jared Goff. He's not what Jameis Winston was hyped up to be coming out. This isn't Caleb Williams. This doesn't feel like one of those years where the quarterbacks are going to go 1 and 2 overall because it's that obvious that these guys are the best pick for those spots. This feels like a year where somebody else goes number 1 overall. But people are telling me and insisting because of the quarterback tax that these two guys are going to go in the first round. And not just in the first round, top 2 in the first round. I don't buy it. The speculation on that based off of the position just doesn't match what the value is, right? And that's the same thing for Sam Darnold. The speculation for the money that Sam Darnold's going to make this offseason, right? $45, $50 million. Nobody can justify it by saying Sam Darnold's actually worth that money. Anytime somebody brings it up, everybody, even my man in the comments, and like not trying to roast you or nothing like that, but this is pretty much like everybody who says this also follows it up by saying no idea whether Sam Darnold's going to be worth the long-term solution. There is no faith that Sam Darnold is actually going to be worth it. We go back to our analogy about stock markets, right? There's no faith that Sam Darnold as a stock is going to perform to where you think that he's going to perform to or to the value of it, right? There's no faith that Sam Darnold's actually going to turn a profit. So what's going to happen? People are going to sell while it's high. And that profit, that price is going to plummet. I'm shorting Sam Darnold. I don't think he's going to get that money. If he does, he does. The only team I think will give him that money is the Minnesota Vikings because it's the only team that makes sense for him to get that money from. Because if you're the Vikings, you know that you can replicate everything that made them successful this year, next year. So it might be worth it to go get that money for Sam Darnold, especially if you structure the contract like that. But if we're talking about Sam Darnold hitting the open market and people are thinking he's going to get more than that because he's hitting free agency, I call cap. I don't see another team looking at Sam Darnold, having 1 year of success, not in their building and saying, we're going to give that $45 million. Like, here's also my issue I have with like the discourse around quarterback. And this is something we need to have a long conversation about. And I know I've been having a long conversation about this one comment, but I think it's worth it. Think about it like this. Everywhere you go, you listen to people who talk about the draft, who do this year round. You hear, this quarterback draft class is not good. Okay? That's what I hear, right? The quarterback draft class is not good. But then I hear from the same people that they expect quarterbacks to go 1 and 2 overall. Which one is it? Is the class not good? Or is it really good? Because usually the class is really good if quarterbacks go 1 and 2 overall, right? People are telling me that there's going to be this huge demand for quarterback in the offseason, right? There's going to be a giant market for quarterback, free agency and draft, that you're going to be able to get all these draft picks for these players and all these things because people are going to be so desperate for quarterback. But last year, y'all told me that the reason why Bo Nix and Michael Penix win the first round was because teams were trying to make sure they weren't in the market this year at quarterback because it projected to be a down year to be looking for a quarterback. Which I think is correct, right? Like, I think they were right. I think teams got ahead of it. Got their quarterbacks last year and decided to sit this year out. So if that's the case, why is there going to be this giant market for teams looking for quarterbacks? Why would all of these teams be like, yeah, we need to get a quarterback right now if everybody has decided that this is not the year to go crazy over quarterbacks? It's possible that the quarterback tax that we're used to is not going to really apply this year. It's possible that teams aren't going to be as crazy to go and invest a Daniel Jones amount of money in Sam Darnold, knowing damn well that could be another Daniel Jones situation. Like, you think the Giants, after doing that with Daniel Jones, are going to be like, yeah, let's do it with Darnold? It's a real question to ask. These questions aren't being asked. We're just saying quarterback tax. Well, they're quarterbacks, so it always happens. But it doesn't always happen. There are years where teams go, no, I'm not doing that. Remember, we thought Kenny Pickett would be a top 5 pick. Remember, we thought Malik Willis would be a top 5 pick. Both those guys did not perform up to that level, right? Like, they did not get drafted to that point. Kenny Pickett went late first round. Malik Willis went well after the first round. I think this is a year where you short the quarterback market. I think the quarterbacks are going to go way, way higher than projected. Well, lower than projected. I think the money for Darnold is going to be lower than projected. This is me shooting my shot, putting this out there. Maybe I'm wrong, but the fundamentals on this quarterback market make no sense for it to be as expensive and pricey and resource intensive as people are predicting it to be. It just doesn't. Like, you just look at the fundamentals of this market. You look at what people have been saying. It doesn't match up with what people are advocating the value is going to be. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, do not buy. Okay? Do not buy at these prices. These prices are not going to hold. Like, I don't think that's going to make any sense. So, appreciate y'all sticking for me. I know I went 11 minutes on that one question, but I think it's an important one. And I did title the video this, so yeah, you came here for that. So hopefully you feel like you got your money's worth. But yeah, man, I'm shorting the quarterback market. I just can't. I don't buy that it's going to be this expensive, man. Like, I get it. It's quarterback. Quarterback's always expensive. Teams are desperate, whatever it is. But also teams choose to, like, kick the quarterback can down the road all the time. And I don't know, man. Like, I find it really hard to believe that teams are going to go as crazy for quarterback as they did last year, especially when, 5 teams took a quarterback last year. So it's like 5 more teams ain't going to take a quarterback. I don't know. Like, you even got like a team like Tennessee who might still be committed to Will Levis or like think that they could do something with Mason Rudolph. Like, I feel like the demand for quarterback is not going to be what people expect. We'll see. We'll see. I could be wrong. It is quarterback. Let's get to the next video. Sam Darnold or Justin Fields Q&A. Back to Basics says, great insight on bridge QB, Q. No doubt this should be the strategy going forward. Retool the trenches, both the offensive and defensive lines. Tim Couch and Baker Mayfield, more than capable starters, got derailed by injuries. I disagree with Tim Couch. Baker Mayfield is a capable starter, though. It's the season of hope. I'm hoping the Browns don't throw another rookie quarterback into the fire next season without retooling the trenches. Yeah, watching DTR out there made it obvious to me that, like, the Browns need to do something about left tackle if they're going to bring a quarterback in here, regardless of, like, especially if that quarterback's not a veteran quarterback, right? Like, if you bring in Justin Fields, you need to do something about left tackle, right? Now that doesn't mean you got to draft the left tackle first overall or anything like that, but you do got to do something there. Like, you got to spend some money at left tackle because you just have a unlivable situation there. I'm interested to see how they go and attack that position because they got to do something. They got to do something, right? Like Dan Moore, something like that, right? Like, even Chuk's a core for, I'll be fine with. Pat McCarry, like, somebody got to play left tackle other than what's on the roster, because you're going to get a quarterback killed if he's out there, right? Because some of that stuff with DTR out there, it kind of exposed what Jameis was covering up when it came to the offensive line. And the one thing Jameis is going to do, other than throw interceptions, he's going to be able to navigate the pocket well, right? Like, I saw a lot of people commenting on DTR's pocket awareness. I don't know if DTR's pocket awareness is as bad as everybody thinks it is. I just think that Jameis Winston has elite pocket awareness. Like, he's really good at that. And because he's really good at that, you don't notice how bad the offensive line is when Jameis is out there. You take Jameis out there, then all of a sudden you're like, damn, Deshaun getting hit a lot. DTR getting hit a lot. Bailey Zapp is getting hit a lot, right? Because he's covering up a lot with his mastery of the pocket. The person you bring in next year is not going to be Jameis Winston level in the pocket because you don't want to bring Jameis Winston back because you think he throws too many interceptions. So if that's the case, then you need to get a better left tackle situation so that you're not sending a quarterback in there just to get destroyed. Right? Like, I think tackle, that's a free agency thing where you just got to spend some money at tackle. Let's see what the money looks like, but you got to spend some money on that. Let's go to one of the more recent videos I've done, actually. It actually released earlier today. Number 1 overall pick. The Browns could get the number 1 overall pick. If the top 3, I explore trading down a few spots first. I feel like some of the desperate teams would trade up a couple of firsts, but yeah, ton of talent available. Each one can be a major contributor for us. This is where I go back to like shorting the quarterback market. A lot of us don't think that these quarterbacks are good. So who's going to give you 2 firsts for them, right? Like, this ain't like you trying to get CJ Stroud or something like that, or like Anthony Richardson's up there. He's a once-in-a-generation type athlete. Like, I like Shedeur. I like his film, but I don't think I would be like, man, I got to trade 2 first-round picks just to get him. Like, I'd be cool. Like, Shedeur Sanders is a type of quarterback prospect to where if you're like picking top 8 to top 15, you're not going to move up for him, I would think. You're just going to be happy if he's there, right? But maybe I'm seeing this wrong with Shedeur. Cam Ward, I don't think I'm seeing that wrong with him, man. Like, I don't think anybody's trading 2 firsts for Cam Ward. Again, where is this demand going to come from? Like, who are the teams that are going to be super desperate to do this? And, like, are we sure they're as desperate as everybody says they are? Because right now, we're one of those teams that people are assuming that the Browns are going to be quarterback desperate. And a lot of people in the fan base are absolutely okay with not drafting a quarterback in the first round. So, like, you have to assume that's how Tennessee fans feel. Maybe that's how some Raiders fans feel. Maybe that's how New York fans feel. Like, I feel like we're overestimating the desire to get a quarterback here for a lot of franchises and fan bases. I just think the market is a bit, I don't know the proper term for it, but I'm really low. I'm calling bullshit on the quarterback market. Like, that's the only way I know how to say it. Sorry, I was trying to be more eloquent, man, but that's as eloquent as I could get there in this moment. Q, are you seriously suggesting that we don't get one of these 2 QBs with one of these 2 picks? Kind of seems ridiculous. Here's my thing about drafting a quarterback in the top 5, and this is where I will stand until the end of time. I don't mind drafting a quarterback in the top 5, obviously, but for me, if I were the one turning the card in, I have to be convinced that that quarterback is one of the 5 best players in this draft to do it. Like, the same way I look at it like, oh, Mason Graham, Abdul Carter, they're such amazing prospects. I have to feel that same way about that quarterback if I'm going to take them in the top 5. I can't sit here like, if I'm going to draft a quarterback and hope they become something, that's a 3rd round pick. That's a late 2nd round pick. That's a 4th round pick. Hope is for those days in the draft. Day 1 in the draft is not for hope. It's for what you want, right? Like, okay, I want this. He going to be this. And I'm not about to draft the quarterback in the 1st round, especially in the top 5, hoping he becomes something that he's not right now. So for me, if I don't think a quarterback is one of the 5 best players in this draft class, I'm not going to be comfortable taking him in the top 5. And I don't think Shedeur is one of the 5 best players in this draft class. I don't think Cam Ward is. And I don't think Jalen Milroe is. Now, that doesn't mean I wouldn't be happy to draft them at different points in this draft outside the 1st round, especially Jalen Milroe. But if we're talking about 1st round, no. And then even 2nd round, I might trade back into the 2nd round. But as far as like using that top 2nd round pick, I'm getting best player available, right? So that's how I see quarterback, right, for the Browns, especially this year. You're in the top 5. Don't just take a quarterback to take a quarterback, because that's not going to be successful. Don't just do it for quarterback's sake. Ask yourself if this is one of the 5 best players in this draft. And if he is, go ahead. I don't care. But if you don't think that about that guy, you should stay away from drafting that guy. because you're hoping. And hope has no place in the first round, right? You don't draft somebody in the top 5, especially, hoping they become something. You draft them because you know what they are, and you know what they can become, right? We weren't hoping about Myles Garrett when the Browns drafted. We weren't like, oh, I hope he becomes it. We knew that was a bad man coming out of Texas A&M. Same way if you draft Abdul Carter or Mason Graham, you can be like, hey, I'm not hoping he's good. I know he about to be good. Like there's no hope about that. But if you draft Shador, you're hoping that it works. You don't know. You're not that confident in it. Tall tale sign that you should probably stay away from it. But I'm going to do my due diligence. I'm going to watch this whole season, and then I'll come back with how I actually feel about him. But from what I've seen by watching his like first 4 games in college this year, I don't see somebody I'm like jumping over the moon to get. DTR isn't the answer, so who's next? Some dude says, I was one of the ones who wanted to give DTR a chance the rest of the season to showcase if he could be the answer of some kind. He did enough in this game to give me all the answers I need. I'm okay if none of these quarterbacks come back. I don't even want to see the kid. They keep yo-yoing. I'm ready to see this team get a do-over at quarterback. Yeah, I've seen enough of this quarterback room, right? Like, Jameis is fine if you want to bring back Jameis at some capacity, but I'm not bringing back Jameis to be the starter, right? Like, if you're bringing back Jameis to start, I think that's a bad idea. If you're bringing back Jameis because you have a plan to make him the backup or some shit like that, then that's fine with me, because I do think Jameis is a really good backup, really bad starter, right? He's a relief pitcher. That's how I view Jameis Winston. You just can't throw him out there that much. But if you do use him in sparingly, then he's fine. DTR, I mean, like, he could be an emergency quarterback. Like, I don't mind him competing for another preseason against another 5th, 6th round pick or something like that. Look, I don't really mind that. I don't advocate for drafting a quarterback in the top 2 rounds. But once we get to like late day 2 or in like day 3, I wouldn't mind if you took somebody in the 3rd round that you like. Let's say Milroe falls to you in the 3rd round, and then you go ahead, you get a Riley Leonard in the 6th round. Wouldn't mind that, right? Like taking a couple swings, flyers at quarterback in this year's draft. I don't mind that. It's just I'm not about to just hope in the 1st round. That's kind of crazy to me. But the day 3 is for hoping, especially late day 2. All that shit's for hoping. But yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind if they cleaned out the quarterback room. It's going to be interesting how they handle Watson's roster spot, because you got to do something there if he just stays on IR the whole year. We'll see. And it could be a situation where it gets awkward. So we'll see how it goes. C.W. Scott says, Mike Hall, Isaiah McGuire, though we got some shining talent in line. Hey, man, those guys are going to be good players, especially Mike Hall. He keeps flashing. Like, he keeps flashing the more he plays. And Isaiah McGuire, I think he's been putting together a really underrated season. Like, if the Browns were good this year, we'd be talking about Isaiah McGuire so much, because he's been so important to what the Browns want to do. And look, the Browns' run defense got better once they traded Zadarius Smith, because Isaiah McGuire is playing more. He's the highest graded run defender on Pro Football Focus, higher than TJ Watt. Like, something's there with you got something in Isaiah McGuire. I'm telling y'all that. And then Mike Hall, I wanted Roger Rosengarten. Roger Rosengarten looks like a great right tackle right now, and I think he could be a pretty solid left tackle if you give him the chance here. I wish the Browns could have got them both, like, in all honesty, right? Like, that was my hope, is that you could get them both. But, yeah, Mike Hall's going to be a hell of a player too. Definitely. Travis Hunter across from Ward fixes a lot of issues in Schwartz's defense and solves punt returner a hole that we have. Do you go D-line only to fix a hole or two? One, I could care so little about fixing a hole at punt returner. Honestly, I don't care who returns the punts. I don't care if the punt returner we have is a dynamic threat to do something. I could care less. All I care about with the punt returner, do you catch the ball within the 5? Are you smart with when you catch the ball? And do you catch the ball when it's punted? Like, as long as you don't muff punts and you don't do dumb shit when you catch the punts, I could care less who's return the punts. So the idea of like getting Travis Hunter because he could play corner and return punts, nah, man, I'm off of that. Like, no, I don't care. I don't care that he can return punts. And like, would you really want to use Travis Hunter as a punt returner? Because I wouldn't want him to get tackled. He seems to be really small. And that could create injury concerns. And like making him return punts seems like you're just accelerating those problems. You can bring back Jalen Darnold, dog. I don't care who returns these punts. Not a hole I'm really invested in filling. But putting him across from Ward, does that fix a lot of the problems in Schwartz's defense? I don't think it does, because Schwartz's defense is still going to be Jim Schwartz's defense. And yeah, he likes to play a lot of press man, and you should win early in that. But really what Jim Schwartz's defense struggle with is if you can't get pressure. And I think pressure is more important than being able to cover for like 5 seconds downfield. I think that's going to be more important than Jim Schwartz's defense. So I would go defensive line, to be honest. If we talk about what works in Jim Schwartz's system, Jonah says, I feel like a conversation about Ford needs to be had. This guy is averaging 5.5 a carry and it's just being ignored. The thing is, we see how he's getting the 5.5 a carry. And like, I'll give it to Jerome. The last couple of games, he's been a significantly better running back than he was at the start of the season. But we can't ignore what he looked like at the start of the season. We can't ignore what he looked like a month ago. Like, it's nice that Jerome is putting together this work, but keep in mind, Jerome been the starter pretty much the whole damn year, and he don't even got 800 yards rushing like he did last year. So like, that's where I look at Jerome kind of sideways. It's like, hey, how reliable are you going to be? He's not an every down back. He's not a number one back. He seems like somebody who could be a specialty guy. I just think that's just what Jerome Ford is, right? Like, he is a nice third back in a rotation that needs it. And I think if he has a great offensive line, he can give you a couple of home runs. And I think that's a good thing. The issue with Jerome Ford is that if you run him like 30 times, or not 30 times, but if you run him 15 times, he's going to be knocked behind the line of scrimmage like 8 of those times. And that shit is costly because it's usually on first down. And that puts you behind the sticks immediately. And it's just no way to win a football game, right? So you can't run him too often. You got to be really specific with when you use him. He's just a tricky player to use. I think probably like Mike McDaniel gets his hands on him and figures it out. But I don't know if he figures it out in Cleveland, to be honest with you. I get why people are excited. The stats look good on him, and the accounting stuff and the fantasy football numbers are really great for him. But if you look at his effectiveness in game, that like him getting knocked behind the line of scrimmage as much as he does kills drives way too often. But thank you for watching. Y'all have a great day. Appreciate y'all leaving them comments. Make sure you leave them comments below this video. Everybody have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.